Welcome to Taking Healthcare by Storm Industry Insights, the podcast that delves into the captivating intersection of innovation, science, compassion, and care. In each episode, Quality Insights Medical Director Dr. Jean Storm will have the privilege of engaging with leading experts across diverse fields, including dietitians, pharmacists, and brave patients navigating their own healthcare journeys. Our mission is to bring you the best healthcare insights, drawing from the expertise of professionals across West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and the nation. Subscribe now, and together we can take healthcare by storm.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taking Healthcare by Storm. I am Dr. Jean Storm, the medical director here at Quality Insights, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Diane Randall, MACHC, whole life wellness consultant, author, speaker, and longtime advocate for helping busy professionals create healthier, more balanced lives. Diane's path into wellness didn't begin in a yoga studio or a nutrition seminar. It began with a wake-up call. While juggling life as a working mom, global consultant, and entrepreneur, she found herself facing serious health concerns that forced her to pause, reflect, and ultimately transform her life from the inside out. And isn't that how many things happen in our lives? We weren't expecting it. They kind of come by surprise, and then they fully transform our lives. With decades of experience in consulting, coaching, and spiritual psychology, Diane brings a grounded, compassionate, and practical approach to wellness, one that embraces discomfort as a catalyst for change, emphasizes plant-focused nutrition and movement, and recognizes the deep connection between physical health, emotional well-being, and spiritual growth, the very definition of whole person-focused care or holistic care. Today, we're going to be talking about burnout, balance, stress, and what real sustainable wellness looks like in a world that never slows down, and it seems to be getting faster and faster. And we're going to be talking about what healthcare really could look like if we truly focused on whole person care. Diane Randall, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Hello, Jean, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's my pleasure to meet you.
Yes, and I'm really excited to jump into the conversation because we're going to be talking about things that are very much of interest to me and obviously important in my own life and the individuals I talk to. Your journey into wellness began with a pretty pivotal wake-up call, as I mentioned in the introduction. Can you take us back to that moment? What was happening in your life and what ultimately pushed you to move from being a busy, successful professional to becoming a guide for whole life wellness?
It's very interesting, and believe it or not, it wasn't something I planned. So thank you. That moment was many moments, which were humbling and clarifying. And I was the consummate professional, okay? Checking all the external boxes, running on adrenaline, chronic stress. Back years ago, it was more about, how long you can work, Yeah. taking on a lot of duties and activities because way back then you were validated and credited the longer you worked and the more you did. And I was that person. And not only was I that person, I was also a mom. I had gotten divorced, so I had kids I was raised, but I was ignoring my own needs. So the wake-up call came, and what I would say, the peak moment, I had been in software consulting for a few years. Best career, loving it, very successful, just loving it. But one day, after about 5 years in consulting, I was on my way to the airport because I traveled also at that time. Leave on Monday, come back on Thursday or Wednesday. On my way to the airport, and at the time I would take a car to the airport, I could not get out of the car. I literally could not get out of the car. And that's when I recognized my body was saying no more. At that time, I was pushing through debilitating fatigue, brain fog, just really, really chasing and running and running and chasing. And I realized I was treating my life like it was a machine and not like a precious, nurturing body. So literally, I realized that I was burnt out. And at that time, I came back home and I just couldn't go back. I just couldn't travel. When I thought about it, I would start having an anxiety attack or start going down that path, just thinking about getting on the plane. And at the time, I needed to go see the client because that was my job, that was my career. But what I realized was I wasn't just in burnout. My body, my mind, and I realized my spirit after a lot of researching and looking at what being well and what not being burnt out meant to me. So, I just didn't want to manage my stress. I wanted to live. I wanted to know what well-being meant. I wanted to know what it meant to be healthy because I knew that wasn't the life that I was living. And then I felt I needed to be more integrated with purpose and all happiness and joy because I wasn't experiencing it. I was too busy. So that's when I shifted from being, I was used to just driving outcomes in consulting, and I was living my life the same way, to be honest with you. And I realized I needed a transformation for whole life. And I needed to figure out, what does it mean? I needed to integrate all parts of myself, my mind, my body, and my spirit. So that triggered my journey to figuring out what it meant to be well. I'm a consultant. I wasn't thinking about being in wellness. But what happened? I felt better and better once I started reading and looking at workshops, attending classes on health, what it meant to be health, and just going through my journey of exploration. I figured out that, wow, I'm feeling better and better, and people were noticing it. And I started sharing that information. Next thing I know, I started a wellness business because people were asking me a lot about, what are you doing? You're glowing, you're looking nice, you've lost weight, you look happy. I started getting a lot of that. So I figured, oh my God, it must be what I felt better and I felt lighter in my life.
Yeah, definitely started working. And I mentioned in the introduction discomfort as a catalyst for change. And I'm very interested in that topic. Why do you believe discomfort is actually essential in a wellness journey? And how can people stop fearing it and use it, as a catalyst, as that information for transformation?
We all are conditioned to see discomfort as a red flag, something's wrong. It's something we need to fix immediately. So many of us, we don't get to really explore, why am I feeling this way? It must be something really bad. Let me hurry up and get rid of it. But for me, I felt discomfort is a signal for growth. It's like muscles aching after a new workout. And it's essential real change because what happens is many of us are in our comfort zones. And once we step out of our comfort zone and we get uncomfortable, we step right back into our comfort zone. So for me, I had experienced, and how I talk about discomfort a lot is with boundaries. I teach a lot about boundaries and what happens because that's where we experience it the most. We get that queasy gut feeling or a tightness in the chest. That is our body mind intelligence telling us that something's off, something's not working, or it can be a signal for stagnation.
Yeah. Signal for of stagnation. That's great. That needs to be like a buzz phrase somehow. And I think kind of jumping off of that signal of stagnation, burnout is universal. Everybody says they're burnt out, especially high performing professionals. From your perspective, what's really driving this widespread burnout? And why do traditional self care fixes not work?
Well, I think one reason self-care fixes do not work is because everybody's telling us what that means. You know, what is self-care? We are getting messaging from all parts of life, commercials, books, podcasts now, telling us what it means to have self-care. We're told that self-care it's buying a bunch of products, but really self-care is pausing and really checking in with yourself to just explore, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? And really trying to figure out, why am I feeling this way? And really exploring, what opportunities do I have to really learn? What do I need in this moment? What do I need to feel better, to do better? What do I need? And that's what I learned. It is checking in with myself. Just getting why am I so stressed out? Why am I having anxiety? It's really being honest and telling the truth about what is really going on. And that's the first step, is telling the truth about, why do I have this discomfort? Where is it coming from? And it's being truthful, because sometimes, oh my goodness, it's coming from the kids. It's coming from work. And a lot of times as professionals, we don't focus on it, because that may mean I have to change something. And if I have to change something, that may be hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Change is hard. Change is hard for a lot of us, most definitely. You are very interested in plant-focused nutrition. It's central to your work, but you approach it holistically rather than dogmatically, which I really align with. I think that's what we really should be leaning towards in wellness. So why is a plant-forward diet so impactful for overall wellness, physically, emotionally, and mentally? And what do people often misunderstand about it?
What I can share is, this didn't happen like the next step from getting my self-care and changing the way I was living. I became plant-based myself 23 years, because just neglecting myself, and the burnout and the stress and the inflammatory diet I was on, I was really sick. I had a lot of gut issues, and I originally just wanted to feel better. And it's not that I stopped everything at one time. I just started cutting out different things over the years. And then what I recognized was, I felt better. My blood pressure, cholesterol, those things went away. And I had so much more energy. So, of course, I wanted to keep going. I wanted to keep learning. And I really wanted more and more. One thing leads to another. I wanted to really take all of that into account and notice that I literally feel good. I'm happy, I'm
Mhm.
joyful, I'm feeling light. So what I decided for myself, and like you said, when you first started this conversation, this is nothing you put on anybody. It's taking one step at a time, small steps, feeling better. But what I realized was, a whole food, plant-based lifestyle was really making me feel better, making me lighter. So, of course, I kept going and wanted more and more. And fast forward, it's been 20.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. And it started with one day. You know what I mean? One
Yeah.
day, just cutting out. I had started cutting out different things over the years, because in my consulting work, I used to I go to food companies. And for the work I did, I needed to understand manufacturing of this food. What's in it? So that initially helped me to rethink my choices for some of the foods when I would go to certain food companies and see how a lot of the food was being manufactured. I would say that. And some of the ingredients. Yeah.
So movement is another pillar you emphasize, especially for busy people who say or feel like they have no time. So why is movement so critical to wellness beyond weight or fitness? And what does realistic, sustainable movement look like in everyday life?
Okay. Movement is critical because, like you said, it's not just about fitness. It's about the embodiment, mood regulation, and cellular vitality. It tells our body we're alive. For busy people, especially, because that's who I look at the most, the key is decoupling the movement from exercise. And I call it sustainable movement, which could be a 10-minute walk while you're on a call, stretching while you're waiting for coffee, or dancing while you're cooking. It's about finding pockets of integration, not adding another long hour at the gym. COVID taught me a lot. Uh, I guess it helped inform me that you don't need a gym, even though we are programmed that we do. But you're not going to the gym, putting in the work, then you're not really working out. As I said, it taught me that I didn't really need to go to the gym a lot. And I started looking at movement as little snacks, small, frequent bites of activity that reduce stiffness, boost circulation, and reconnect us to our physical selves. And it's consistency over intensity. And that's the mantra. We really don't need 2 hours in the gym. We really don't. Even though when I was younger, I did 2 hours in the gym. I thought that was the way. And again, that is the societal messaging that we all get. So what I try to do in my work is to help people unlearn a lot of the things that we've learned over time to give our body and our mind and our spirit more what we need. And this is not just a cookie cutter. We all do the same thing. It's really getting to know ourselves, checking inside to see what we really need. I mean, that is the work. What do we really need in this moment? For some people, they say, oh, I just want to lose weight. Let's look at your life as a whole. And if we do that assessment, the losing weight becomes a byproduct of this burnout, busy life.
I love how you say that movement is looking at pockets of integration. I love that. I definitely align with that. For listeners who are feeling constantly overwhelmed, stressed, stretched thin, and I think there's probably a lot of individuals out there who are feeling that way. What are a few practical, accessible things? Already mentioned, dancing while you cook. But what are some accessible things regular people can start doing today to reduce stress without completely overhauling and changing their whole lives?
Okay. This can be done right now or after they hang up the phone or while they're on the call, because this is a 60-second breath reset where you inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 6. This calms the nervous system instantly. Second, the done list. At day's end, write 3 things you did complete, including basic self-care. It's just the focus from lack to accomplishment. And the third thing is create transition rituals. A 5-minute pause between tasks like sipping tea or looking out of a window to reset rather than rush. And these aren't overhauls, they're gentle interruptions to autopilot stress. And as you know, when our lives get busy, it's good to stop and take a breath. It's good to stop and stand up. I mean, you can even set the reminder on your calendar, whether it's on your watch or on your computer, to say, stand up, or to say, walk 5 minutes. You can integrate this into your daily life and not wait till the end of the day.
Yeah, I highly recommend. Those are like little snacks. I'm going to say little mindfulness snacks. Maybe we could call them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're,
And
yes.
sometimes you'll notice, okay, if I look at all the integrated little mindful snacks, as we're calling them, or movement snacks, if I look at my calendar, wow, I did about 30 minutes of self-care today during my workday.
Yep. That's
These
up.
micro rituals really work versus telling you, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to put on your calendar for self-care? Because that's a slow process. We start with the small steps.
You have a background in spiritual psychology, and this adds a unique dimension to your work. What role does spiritual growth play in wellness, and how can people explore this aspect of themselves, regardless of their religious beliefs, without feeling intimidated? And some people may say this is woo woo. So how
Yeah.
can they have people? How can people explore this?
It's really, we take care of ourselves on the outside. This is the work we do on the inside. And spiritual psychology simply asks, who am I? What should I be doing beyond my roles and achievements? Who am I? Because some of us take that job away. And I've worked with people who, for whatever reason, vice presidents, directors who, in this age of layoff, they get laid off and they don't know who they are. And I believe it's like a dimension. It's not about prayer or anything like that. It's checking, who am I from the inside out? And this is the dimension of wellness that deals with meaning, connection, and inner peace. And you don't need religion or believe in anything, the woo-woo or it starts with simple questions. What brings me joy? When do I feel connected? And what values do I want to guide my choices? It's practices like mindful reflection, walking in nature, or journaling about what gives your life purpose. And this opens the door. It's about nurturing your inner life with the same care you give your outer life.
I like that. And we don't need to kind of go down this, spiritual religion belief. What do you believe? That is right. Really giving attention to your inner life. And I love how you said that.
My inner work led me to that master's degree. I had I'm a technical person. That's what I love about doing inner work, because you have no idea where the universe will lead you on your own specific journey.
Yeah. So last question, I want to zoom way out. And I ask most of my guests this question. If you were in charge of healthcare in the United States, what would you change to better support prevention, balance, and whole person wellness, not just disease treatment?
And don't get me started.
It's a big question.
It's a big question, and one I struggle with for myself. I'd shift from sick care to true health care by incentivizing prevention and holistic support. First of all, integrate the lifestyle medicine into primary care, with nutrition, stress management, and movement as the first lines of treatment. And second, create community wellness hubs that address social determinants of health connection, food access, nature exposure. And the third thing is measure what matters, like resilience, vitality, quality of life, not just the disease metrics. And finally, train people in whole care. So people So patients aren't seen as humans with stories, not collections of symptoms. Health isn't just about the absence of disease, it's about well-being. And the main thing I would do is tear down this whole business model of healthcare because it is not working at all.
Well, I hope you're in charge one day, Diane. Thanks for honestly.
I don't really, that's my hope. But what I do love, I see more naturopaths. I see more doctors, because I do a podcast and I interview a lot of people. I talk to doctors who've left their practices. I see nurses becoming more holistic. And I do have hope for the future, if anything else.
Yeah, me too. If people want to find out more about your podcast or more about what you do or more about what you've written, where can they do that?
They can find me on my website, www.dianerandallconsults.com. I've written 2 books. One, Jumpstart Your Life, Find Your Motivation to Change Your Life. And also A Whole Life Nourish, Plant-Based Living with a Holistic Approach, which brings all my work together in the books. I teach, I do workshops, so they can find everything on that website.
And what is the name of your podcast?
It's called Plant-Based Curious.
All right. I love that title. Oh,
yeah, we talk about not just plant-based, we talk about behavior change and holistic health.
Great. I encourage everyone to check out Diane's websites, her books, and her podcast. Diane Randall, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dr. Jean Storm, for inviting me. It's been great.
Thank you for tuning in to Taking Healthcare by Storm, Industry Insights with Quality Insights Medical Director Dr. Jean Storm. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you found value in what you heard, please consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform. If you have any topics or guests you'd like to see on future episodes, you can reach out to us on our website. We would love to hear from you. So until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep taking healthcare by storm.